Hi, and welcome to another episode of In the Spotlight, where we shine a light on entrepreneurs, SMEs, innovators, and creatives. I'm Maxine Crow, your host, and I'm so delighted today, and it's been a long time coming, to have Derek Mason, Director of SSA Consulting Engineers, with us today. Hi, Derek, how are you?
Hi, Maxine. Thanks for having me on the show today. I'm fine, very busy, but that's always a nice problem to have.
It definitely is. And the way we do these, they're very, very relaxed. And I'll ask you a few questions and we just have a conversation for about 30 minutes. And it's for a great opportunity for our audience to get to know you and your journey. So if you can start by introducing yourself and your business.
Hi, I'm Derek Mason. I'm the founding director of a multi-award winning structural engineering consultancy called Superstructures Associates. That's the long name, but we'll refer to it as SSA in the talk because that's far easier to do.
And how did you come up with the idea for your business, Derek?
Well, I've been a structural engineer for about 35 years at that point, and I'd worked both in Africa, South Africa, Lesotho, Swaziland, and then I came over to the UK in 1998. The initial plan was only 2 years, and yeah, I'm 25 and a half years later still here, so I love it here. And I worked for all these other bigger companies and smaller companies and that, but I'd always wanted to be my own boss at some point. And I'd finished I'd been working on the Olympic Stadium. I led the team that did the independent engineering check of the London 2012 Olympic Stadium for the Olympic Delivery Authority. And I've finished most of that work sort of in 2011. So I decided to start my company part-time in my summer house at the back of my garden, as a lot of SMEs do. I did it part-time in the evenings and the weekends. And then what happened is I started winning more and more work, you see, because I did it as a proof of concept, because if you don't have paying clients, in simple terms, you don't have a business. So I proved to myself that I could get paying clients, and slowly but surely the workload increased and increased, and eventually I had to make the very big decision. Do I give up the day job, or do I give up my dream of being an entrepreneur and business owner? And in the end, I gave up the day job, and as I say, the rest is history.
So speaking about the just working on, as they call it, that the side hustle, working as it on, and then you've got your full-time role. And what was when I know you said about winning more business, which then warranted you going into the entrepreneur and the SSA full-time, but what was the time period? How long did that actually take? And what was the pivotal moment when you said, right, okay, I can't.
It was just over a year. So I started Superstructures on the 6th of April 2011, and then I worked part-time, as I say, through 2011 and into 2012. And so then by that point in 2012, our work on the Olympic Stadium had basically finished. They'd been doing all the test events and things like that. And yes, I was running other projects and that, for big projects, hotel projects and things like that for the big company. But I decided at that point that I was going to burn out, because you're working evenings, weekends on your business. And I'm very proud of my work ethic, and that's I was giving my all during the day for the day job, because you're being paid by the company. You've got to pull your weight and do your bit. And I was running quite large projects, so I had to be on point, so to speak.
Yeah.
And eventually, we're all human. If you carry on like that, I would have burnt out. And that wasn't the plan. So, you've either got to take the leap of faith and go with your own business, or you've got to say, well, look, I've tried it. Actually, I'm not too happy about it because of X and Y. And then you stay with the day job. But at least then you've tried. But for me, I proved enough to myself and obviously to my wife and family that I could bring in work. We could do it profitably, etc. So there was a real chance the business could be a success. But as you and everyone else that's run an SME will know, it's highs and lows. It's not a smooth journey. It's never a straight line. But in the day, I decided to give it a go, and 13 and a half years later, I think I proved it was the right decision. It's been a success because statistically, I think 70% of businesses fail in the first 3 years, and something like only 4% reach 10. So effectively, we in that top 4% now, having lasted beyond 10 years. So to me, that's a success already. Plus, as I say, we've got all these awards we've won. So, you know, we've got a very good reputation.
What would you advise anyone that's in that position where they're at? I call it the crossroads, and I've been there quite a few times throughout my career. And I think for me, it's always been there's never a right time. Is what I've come to.
You know, and there's no certainty. You know, it's got to be what a gut feel, or you've got to have faith in yourself, because, you know, it's always, you know, if there's money, you know, and I was very careful with my SME when I started. I mean, I was fortunate. I started it without taking big loans or anything like that. I actually used the inheritance I'd received from my parents because they'd passed away in 2010. So I invested that in the business. And to me, some ways, that's very personal because that's part of their legacy now.
Yeah.
You know, that they enabled me to start my dream, really.
Yeah.
And by keeping a tight eye on cash and things, you know, money in, money out, all that kind of thing, I was happy that I would be successful, you know, and it's not that certain, you know, if the work dried up, what's the worst could happen? I could go get another job.
Yeah.
You know, I was a very well qualified chartered structural engineer with very good experience. So I was still employable at that point.
Yes.
So if after a year it didn't work out, well, okay, fine, I've tried. Then I could go and get a normal job again.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's always that fallback position. You know, a lot of people, I think, when they were thinking about doing SME, they think it's like an all or nothing. Well, you must give it your all, but there is always a plan B if need be, you know, because they must have been doing something up to that point when they decide to look at being an SME. So you could always go back to what you were doing, you know, maybe even just for a few years while you get some other ideas together for another business that might have a better chance of success.
Yeah.
Yeah, not everyone gets it right first time. You know, maybe I was lucky in that point, but I stuck with what I knew. I'm very passionate about structural engineering. You know, I'm very knowledgeable, very experienced. So, you know, I had a good chance of success from the structural engineering point of view. But of course, the business side is a completely different ball game, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a big testament. I mean, my takeaway from what you've just said there is have the faith. Someone did say to me, you know, if failure is, there is no uncertainty. So if you are going to fail if something is going to fail fast and then move on to the next thing quickly.
One of my rules: you're going to fail quickly, learn lessons from it, and move on. Don't get too emotional about it, because, you know, some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world have failed at so many different projects they've tried. Eventually, they found the one that was the right one.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I was lucky I got it right first time. Other people may take 5, 10 different opportunities, but eventually, hopefully, they will find the one that's got the, you know, the right ingredients of passion, commitment, knowledge, and of course, at the end of the day, finance.
Yeah. And I think that you've touched on an important point there around your strengths and playing to your strengths. You know, why would you start a business in something that you have to just learn all over again? So I think you've hit the nail on the head there as well, in terms of what are you passionate about, what you're really good at, and that's what's brought you the success, I think.
It is. If you're passionate about it and you're knowledgeable and you love doing it, you know, yes, I work very hard, but I love what I do. So in some ways, it's not always work, you know, but it's part of my passion. It's what I think I was put on this earth for, is because that's the God-given skills that I was given, and I've used them. And, you know, I think everyone should try and find their strengths. What are they good at? What do they enjoy doing? And then they find the sweet spot.
I like
because obviously it's got to pay you as well. You know, it's no good being very good at something, love doing something, but you can't make a living from it. Well, then that's not a business, that's a hobby.
Yeah, that's what they say. Derek, what strategies did you use to scale and grow your business?
Well, initially it was just really from known contacts, because obviously I'd been working in the industry, so I had built up quite a good little black book of contacts and things, architects, previous clients I'd worked for and things like that. So that helped a lot. What also did help me, and again, I think I was fortunate in this aspect, is the company that I left was quite a large corporation. And I'd been heading up their structural section for large projects. So when I left, they were pretty gutted. And so they asked me to work 2 days a week for them to help with their transition while they found someone else.
Yeah.
Well, those 2 days a week carried on for 2.5 years.
Oh, wow.
And it was a good way for me to help fund the business, because, you
Yeah.
know, I had 2 days guaranteed work, and obviously I'd agreed a good rate. So that helped fund me in the early days.
Yeah.
You know, and eventually after 2.5 years, I had to go back to them and say, look, you know, thanks for the opportunity and that, but I'm just so busy now, I can't give you those 2 days anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I'd gone and employed other engineers as well by that time, but, you know, I needed that time for SSA. But,
Yeah.
you know, it was, you know, look at opportunities, you know, I'm a great believer in don't leave your employers on a bad footing if you can avoid it, because
Yeah.
sometimes you go full circle, you know, the world goes round, and you know, it's all about contacts and things, and people help each other over time, because sometimes people you work with at one company may move on. Eventually you meet up somewhere sometime, and then they may be keen to work with you. So, you know, don't burn bridges.
That's some really good advice. What would you say? So tell us about your business. I absolutely love engineering structures. Great fan of all of the you know, those programs where they have like the mega engineering projects,
Yeah, and why buildings fall down and things.
Oh my gosh.
Which obviously you want to avoid. Yeah, see, I mean, for the people that listen that don't really know what a structural engineer does, most people seem to know what an architect does. An architect designs a house, a building, to make it look good. But we're structural engineers. We actually design the structure that makes it stand up. We will do the columns, the beams, the timber joists, whatever's needed to form that structure so it can actually function as a building that the architects intended. Because if a building doesn't stand up, well, it's just a dream. It's something on paper or on a computer. It's not a real building. It needs to have the structure in there. I mean, and a lot of people don't often appreciate the structural aspects because it's all hidden.
Yeah.
You know, it's in the walls, it's in the floors. You know, sometimes they might see, oh, something going vertically, oh, that's a steel column. Or you go to a shopping center, sometimes the structure is exposed so you can see it.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a structural engineer, I like walking around it, looking at buildings where the structure is exposed, because I can straight away see how it's working. But, you know, not everyone's that passionate about it like I am. But it's important to know that you need a good structural engineer to make sure your building is safe, because if it doesn't stand up properly, or it could be dangerous. You know, and the last thing you want to do is have a building collapse on someone, because that's unfortunately when lives are lost.
That's true. That would be quite unfortunate. So you've had a successful full run. What would you say, and where would you like your business to be in the next 5 years?
It's funny you asked that. We're looking at it at the moment, because as much as I'd love to think I'm going to carry on forever and live forever and work forever, that's obviously not going to happen. So I'm looking about how do I put the business in a position where it can run without me. So I've got some senior engineers that I'm training up to take over a lot of the aspects. They run a lot of projects on their own, and they help me train the younger engineers. I mean, that's another facet of the business I really love, is training the younger engineers, giving them my experience and knowledge, and that, because that gives me satisfaction that I'm handing over my knowledge to the younger generation. So we're putting measures in place for the business to be able to function without me within the next 5 years, because I want to start doing more traveling and things like that, which means the business needs to run without me. So I need to empower my employees, and I want to, you know, promote from within, because I believe that's a good way to do it. Because I always take on graduate structural engineers, because they come out of university, they're very keen to learn, and I've got a lot of knowledge to give them, and they learn quickly. And that way we become, more profitable and a much more better functioning business, because they can learn the way I want it done. I mean, my wife says, yes, but they'll learn all your bad habits. I said, well, I can live with that, because I teach them the way I want them to learn, but once they get a certain level, then they can, they take on the projects and they design them the way they want to. Obviously, I have input when required, but they get the confidence that they can do it on their own. But obviously, we check everything within our company. When one engineer designs one project, we have another engineer in the company checking it, just to give me peace of mind and make sure that no errors go out, to be built on site.
And that's
so it's all about being careful, making sure you've got the right quality measures in place. And we are triple ISO certified, which means it's a very strict regime of quality checks and things like that. And that gives me peace of mind. At the end of the day, we've all got to sleep at night.
Yeah, that's so true. And some companies, I did a poll a few weeks ago, and it came back that only companies invest between 5 and 10% in their learning and development, training and development, which I feel is quite low, especially when it's a really specialized business and a construction industry is full of regulations. What would your view be? I mean, you've just said about.
We spend probably more than 10%. If you start putting my time and the time of other engineers into that equation, it probably gets higher than that. But we try and get our engineers to do training courses during the year. Obviously, we're very involved with lots of software, so they do webinars on lots of the software. When you get a new release, they watch the webinars to understand all the new things that have been added to the software, so they can use it more efficiently. And I ask them to do it, and they do a lot of that, most of it, during work hours, because I don't expect them to give up their evening just to do these webinars and things. Obviously, it depends when the webinars are held, but most of those are held during the day anyway. And they may go away to Institute of Structural Engineers for a day to do a course in the head office in London, or they do it, on Zoom or whatever. It depends how they're doing the course. But it's all about keeping up to date with things, because as professional engineers, chartered engineers, and one's learning to become chartered, we have to do a certain minimum of continued professional development hours each year, and we've got to log it and we've got to submit it. So it's all very regulated and controlled and things. Me, like a lot of engineers, we do way more than the minimum requirement. It's just because, I love learning, I love reading. Yes, I've been doing it for almost 40 years, but every day is a learning day. You can always carry on learning more. There's always something different that's happening. And I like looking at other industries, so I can learn what they're doing, and then I question and see how can I implement something from that into my industry. And that helps give us a innovation and an advantage, competitive advantage.
Oh, it most certainly does. And what's the best piece of advice that you've received as an entrepreneur?
Well, unfortunately, I think you stole the thunder a little while ago. Fail fast.
There must be more than that. I mean, there must be more to your.
Well, that's just one of them. Fail fast, because try something. If it doesn't work, fine, move on. But I've got a very, very strong mindset, and I've developed that, I think, from my early days when I started running, because I've been a runner since I was 13, and I've run athletics, road races, marathons, ultra marathons. I've done over 100 marathons, 35-mile ultra marathons. So a lot of it is mindset. So I've got a very, very strong mindset. And I think one of the things I'd say to people is, don't let someone tell you can't do it. If you think you can, prove them wrong. And I've done that so many times. That's one of my biggest motivators. People tell me, oh, you can't do that. And then I'll go and prove to them I can. And that's how my athletics career actually started. Someone said to me I couldn't do it. and I've proved them wrong.
I'm absolutely fascinated about ultra marathons, and then how do you apply that kind of mindset to your business?
It's a challenge. People say, how do you run a marathon? Well, it's one step at a time. You just have to decide, I'm going to do it. Obviously, you need to do training in that. But once you've done the minimum training, it's all about mind over matter. I have a little saying, if you don't mind, it doesn't matter. So you just got to keep going. It's one step at a time, and some people will manage it, some people won't. But if they want to, then they just try again. And it's by having that strong mindset. If someone says to me, oh, you can't do that, that's impossible. If I think it can be, I will go and find a way to prove that it can be done. Sometimes it may take a long time, but that's where my running helps again. I run 3 times a week at least, and particularly on the weekend I'm in the forest, because that clears my mind and helps me get clear thinking. And I've solved so many tough structural problems while out running, because my mind goes into a different zone, so to speak. And then it enables me to forget all the stuff that's happened in the office. It clears my mind. I focus on that one problem, and normally by the end of the run, I've solved it. And, to me, that's a way of using strong mindset, running, etc. Find what works for you. Some people may not like running, but maybe they like yoga, maybe they like meditation, hitting a tennis ball, surfing, swimming, it's whatever floats your boat, so to speak. But, find a way that you can relax and clear your mind and get some alternative thinking. Some people, when I do listen to podcasts as well, if you listen to podcasts, sometimes that'll spark a little idea. You make a note of it, and then next time you've got a moment, think about it, explore it, try things.
For me, it's skating. So when I get on the ice, the whole world just disappears. And when you find something that you're passionate about, I think they can get it. That's the thing that does it for me. You talked about listening to podcasts. What's your favorite listen, and what other resources could you recommend to our listeners to help them?
I listen to quite a few different types. I listen to some business ones because yes, I became a brilliant structural engineer, but when I started my business, I didn't know too much about business, like most people. So I joined some business groups. One of them was called the Entrepreneur Circle, and they teach you about marketing and things like that, which as engineers was a bit new to me, but I've used that to market the business very effectively. Joined, local chamber of commerce, things like that, done training courses in businesses, finance especially, and read. I read a lot, books and that, because that's a way of learning as well. And, one of my favorite books on the finance was Profit First. And that shows you a way of running your business. And I adopted my own version of that. I've effectively got 3 business accounts. I've got one where I put my VAT and tax. Another one is a savings account. The other one is the current account that you run your daily stuff from. And what happens when an invoice is paid, I transfer 30% of that amount to my VAT and tax account straight away, because then that is there. So I know when my VAT and tax are due, the money is there, it's waiting. I don't have to scratch around, try and find out do I have money to pay my VAT and tax, because you may be able to defer payment to some people, but not the government. So don't try. And that gives me peace of mind, because I know the money's there. Put money into a savings account, because particularly in construction, it's very cyclic. You get busy times, you get quiet times. At the end of the day, I want to be confident that I can pay my staff every month without fail. And that's what I have the savings account for, to make sure that there's this financial buffer to help us, ride through the tough times. And we've had tough times in the last 13 years. And I'm not talking just about lockdown and things like that. We've had recessions and things like that. So, it's about making sure that your business is resistant to outside, should I say, challenges. make sure you've got cash. Cash is king. The old saying, profit is vanity. But, you need to have cash. Cash is king.
Mm. Yeah. And that's sometimes why businesses fail. I mean, in the years ago, I've had businesses, and you've just ran out of capital, and it happens.
More businesses fail due to lack of cash than they do due to incompetence.
Yeah, for sure. Tell us about your proudest moment.
Ooh, which one?
You can do one. You can give us more than one.
One of my proudest moments was when I became a published author. Because as an engineer, I'm a numbers man. But I joined this group called the KPI group, which is a key person of influence. It's run by someone called Daniel Priestley. And the program basically teaches you how to become a key person of influence in your industry. And one of the modules is you need to publish a book. So I published a book on my work for the 2012 Olympic Stadium. The title is Will It Stand Up?
The world needs to stand up.
Yeah, will it stand up? And which it still is. So it's a good testament to that. It's available on Amazon as well. But while I don't earn a lot of money from selling the book, it's a positional piece, and I use it as a marketing piece, and that helps me win so many different projects because it rates me as an authority. It raises my profile. I give away more books than I sell probably, but that is part of the mechanism of doing it, because instead of giving a business card or a brochure to a client, I walk in, I give them a copy of my book, preferably signed personally for them. It's a nice gift, and it straight away it puts them in the right frame of mind, and you've got more chance of winning that project than if you didn't. So it's about using things like that to raise your profile. It's a book. It's not a technical book. It just tells the story of how the UK went about putting the bid together, how they won the bid, because in the end they only beat Paris by 4 votes in the end, so it was very tight. And then how they put the design team together, how they put the construction team together, and then built the stadium, and then it ends at the opening and closing ceremonies. So it's not a technical book, but it's an interesting book in the sense that it describes what I call my 7 essential principles of running a successful project. And it's not just limited to construction. It can be for any project that someone wants to run, and it talks about things like, getting the right team together, good communication skills, planning, programming, all that kind of thing, which is a lot of it's very logical, but it's about putting it in place so that you can make sure that you do the best you can to make your project successful.
That's absolutely fascinating, and KPI highly recommend it, because it does change your life and position you in a marketplace that's full of noise and in some ways very saturated as well. So yeah, commend you on that. And tell us any words of wisdom and encouragement for our audience. You've already shared some really good ones.
Well, I think it's about finding out what you love doing, that you are very good at, and that pays well. Because as you said earlier, if you can't make decent money out of it, well, then it's a hobby. It's not a business. It's not a career. But try different things. Do little schemes to see would it work. Has it got a potential? They talk about creating a minimal viable product. If it's going to be a product, it doesn't have to be the best thing out, but just see, is there demand for it? Send out quizzes, polls to see would people be interested in buying something like that, or whether it's a service, a product, or whatever. See, is there demand for it? Because there's no point in creating a business if there's no demand for it. You could have the best business set up, but if there's nobody that needs it or wants it, well, then it's not going to survive. So you
Yeah.
need to make sure that there's a demand for it, and that demand will be willing to pay the price that you want to charge and need to charge. Because at the end of the day, if you don't make a profit, your business won't survive. Making a profit and cash is like the oxygen for a business. You need it, because if you don't have that, the business dies. So it's about making sure that the business has a chance of success from day one. And if it's a product you're doing, yes, you can perfect that over time, but just make sure that there is adequate demand for it before you spend a lot of time, effort, and money developing it, and then find, well, actually nobody wants it or needs it, or it was done 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's some really good advice, Derek. Thank you so much. So aside from the Olympic Stadium, what other superstructures have you been proud of being part of creating?
Well, as Superstructure Associates, we've done lots of projects where we've sort of added sort of two stories to additional buildings, like blocks of flats, offices, and things like that. They're called S-based developments. We've done that. We've done lots of basements, which I think a lot of people will know about in the UK. We've done one for sort of 34 square meters, which is very small, up to 420 square meters for one basement, which included a swimming pool, a cinema, a gym, a jacuzzi, lots of fun and interesting things just within the basement. And then we had to connect that basement into the existing house through a tunnel that became stairs. So it was very interesting and challenging. But, I like looking for interesting and challenging projects, because that's what makes it interesting for us. I mean, people may not sort of think about it, but we've actually done some work for Madame Tussauds. We've made Batman, Superman, and Captain Marvel stand up.
Oh, wow.
And, the models are in Madame Tussauds, some here in the UK, done some that's in London, some in the Blackpool one, which was Captain Marvel, and some in Sydney, Australia, and some in America. So, it's some of our projects have sort of literally flown the world.
Wow.
It's interesting, fun things like that. We like looking for fun projects as well, because that's what enthuses the engineers, and shows that what they're doing is valued, and it's interesting. Yes, we do the normal loft conversions, rear extensions. But we've done lots of new builds, some big multi-million-pound houses, some with basements, some without. We just like a wide variety of projects, because that keeps everyone interested and challenged. Because if you do the same thing day in and day out, it becomes boring in the end. And when people get bored, they make mistakes, and we don't want that. So it's about making something differently, and we'll always look at the way something has been done normally, and we'll say, is there a better way? That's one of our mantras. We always ask, is there a better way? We've got a big poster book that we've got 6 very innovative projects we've done that's in this book, that I then use as marketing when I go and see some of our bigger clients, and I talk them through that, so they can see that we are different, our approach is different, and we like challenges. We like solving those challenges. If someone walks into one of our structures, we want them to go, wow, how's this standing up? There's not a forest of columns, because columns get in the way. So it's about looking at what you can do. We use 3D final element analysis for a lot of our projects, because that helps us refine the structure, make sure it's safe, and give the client good value for money. And that kind of software costs a lot, but we need that to stay competitive. And obviously our engineers are very good at using it. We've got our checks and balances, like always, but it's about pushing the boundaries. We like pushing the boundaries, because that's what I think we as engineers should be doing, because that's the way we learn and grow. It's all about going beyond your comfort zone, because that's where the real learning is. If you just stay in our normal day-to-day comfort zone, you're not going to learn a lot. You're not going to develop over time. Whereas if you go beyond your comfort zone for a while, you'll learn more things. In our business, I call it the elastic syndrome. Like elastic, we stretch them out into their comfort zone for a while. They learn there, but then we bring them back into their comfort zone, because if they stay in the comfort zone, outside the comfort zone too long, they're going to get uneasy and frightened and whatnot. So by bringing them back into the comfort zone, they get used to things again. But when they go next time they'll find their comfort zone has grown because you've gone out, you've come back. And by doing that on a regular basis, the comfort zone extends. So they're more comfortable doing more challenging and difficult things because they've done it before. And they've done it with another engineer or me or whatever. So it's not quite hand-holding, but it's giving reassurance that what you're doing is right. Yes, we do, obviously our checks and things like that. But by extending that comfort zone, you're helping them grow as a person as well, not just as an engineer.
Yeah.
I've encouraged some of my senior engineers to also do some talks and things that helps them with their confidence for public speaking. As engineers, we're not often very comfortable about doing public speaking, but it's a way that you've got to learn to do it, because as you progress through business, you need to do presentations to clients and things like that. So you need to have those opportunities to learn. And that's a good way by doing, extending your comfort zone in those kind of areas. So it's not all just about the engineering and the numbers. I'm a great believer in holistic development. My engineers and that they learn a lot about the business side of things as well, because in the end of the day, I want some of them to help me run this business so that I don't have to be involved in everything.
Yeah.
So it's about, teaching skills and all that kind of thing beyond just the engineering. So they understand how the business works. They understand why we have to do things profitably and, concisely and all that, because at the end of the day, the profit is what keeps the business going.
I absolutely love those concepts, and the elastic syndrome. I haven't heard of that before, but I
won't say I invented it, but that's what I call it. And
that's what you call it.
It's a good analogy. I'm a great believer in analogies because it helps people understand what you're trying to do. And sometimes I think something like structural engineering, it can be a bit sort of obscure for people. They don't quite understand it, and then I'll always come up with some form of analogy to explain it to our clients. We've got a simple rule we say to our clients: the only silly question is one you don't ask, because we want them to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. They don't have to understand all the technical aspects, but I want them to be comfortable to ask us if they don't understand something or if they're worried about something. I don't want them to be scared. They're going to think I'm silly if I ask this question. Well, no, we want you to ask those questions because we want to be able to explain it to you so they can understand the value of what we do. Because that way they will feel safer and more confident with what we're doing for them.
That's absolutely priceless. Derek, we've come to the top of our time already. It's just
flown already. Well, time flies when you're having fun.
How can our audience contact you? I know that you're super busy, but what is the best way if there's any listeners? Sometimes people will listen back to the show as well. If they have an interest, how would they get hold of you or anyone in your team?
Well, the various ways. I mean, for me personally, obviously LinkedIn is a big one, but they need to search me with my full name, which is Derek Allen Mason. That way they'll find me quickly. Obviously, we've got our company website, which is www.superstructuresassociates.co.uk. Or just put in Google Superstructures Associates and it will come up. Those are probably the easiest and best ways to get hold of us. But we're keen for people to speak to us on that because we like showing what we can do.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today, and I've learned a lot. I mean, I absolutely love structures, love buildings, which is why I'm in the industry that I'm in, and to be able to share your passion with the audience as well. It's been an absolute honor. Derek, thank you so much for making this episode.
Thank you for having me, and good luck. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. Until next time, take care. I will share the details of your book as well for everyone so that they can know where to find it. And I'm definitely going to enjoy reading that one. Thank you so much for today. Take care.
Pleasure, Maxine. Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.